on this evening. We want to focus in on the whole concept of spiritual growth and what we call a spiritual growth mindset. A spiritual growth mindset. I want to suggest to you that not everybody has this type of mindset that we're going to discuss. And this is just part one of it, but not everybody has this type of mindset. I want to suggest to you also, because people go to church, it doesn't mean that they take that whole working out your salvation and seeking to develop your life and those kind of things. It doesn't mean that they take it very seriously. Some people are just going through the motions. Unfortunately, there are several persons who are tares among the wheat, but then and I think sometimes we don't take it, we don't understand the scripture and read the scripture in context. There are some who are just tares among the wheat, and that will always happen. And then there's some who don't take their relationship with the Lord seriously. So you see those persons, like the apostle is speaking here, like some of those persons who are still as newborn babes, who are operating still as newborn babes, who are still drinking milk. And they're not at that place of wanting to go a little deeper. So tonight, as we discuss this topic, because we are online and working with those persons who are online, I'm going to encourage you, if you have something that you want to say or whatever, please use the microphone so that the persons who are listening in can hear the questions are, and we'll try our very best to monitor if they may have any questions also that they would want to share with us. So 2 Peter chapter 2, 1 to 3, King James Version says, "Wherefore, laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envies and all evil speakings, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby. If so be have tasted that the Lord is gracious." 1 Corinthians chapter 3, reading from verse 1. "And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. I have fed you with milk and not with meat. For hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are you able. For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envyings and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men?" And then 1 Corinthians chapter 14, again King James Version, reading verse 20, it says, "Brethren, be not children in understanding." Be not children in understanding. In other words, don't act like children in your understanding. "Howbeit in malice be ye children, but in understanding be men." So we're going to start first and foremost at what is a mindset. What is a mindset? We've heard this before. We've heard several people say things like, I don't like this person's mindset. I don't like the way they think and those kind of things. But if we go into the dictionary, the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a mindset as a mental inclination, a tendency, or a habit. It is how you are inclined to think, how you are driven to think. The Cambridge Dictionary defines a mindset as a person's way of thinking and opinions. I want to ask you a question. How do you think those mindsets are formed? How do you think mindsets are formed? First and foremost, your environment, the environment that you find yourself in. Someone is saying your upbringing, the way you were brought up. Culture, the culture that's around you. So there's certain things you will see around you, and that will also help to form your mindset. People within your circle, people who are close to you, will oftentimes also impact your mindset. Discipline, explain that one to me. All right, so you're looking at another dimension of it. I want to know how this mindset is formed. There's one more that is extremely important. Your relationship with God also can be extremely important in creating that mindset. Attitude is a offshoot of the mindset. That's actually an offshoot of your mindset. Yeah, so we thought about that. What we were calling in Barbados, they brought up see. You're brought up see, right? But also your experiences. Your experiences. Life's experiences help to shape your mindset. So there's some persons who've walked through certain things, and as a result of walking through those things, their mindset may have actually shifted along the way. Or, unfortunately, some people become what you would want to consider a product of their experiences. So that every single thing that they walked through, they ended up walking around with. Everybody with me? Remember the whole concept of baggage? So you're consistently walking with every single thing that you have. The challenge with it is this, that if you don't grow past those experiences, you become the experiences, and then you just pretty much become what you would want to call, you find yourself rather in it, what you would want to call a vicious cycle. It just keeps going around and around and around, and you feel as though you've gotten past it. But guess what? Every single time you feel you get past it, you're plunged back into the same place again. And that then becomes a difficulty for many persons to be able to navigate. So research actually shows the two types of mindsets that we want to look at. The first one is what we call a growth mindset, and the second one is a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset it carries what we would want to consider a very pessimistic kind of tone. It's very pessimistic in nature, this fixed mindset. The fixed mindset, a person believes that intelligence or change is nearly impossible and growth is not an option. So they will not think that you can grow past certain things. In other words, they just believe that whatever happens to you, happens to you. Whatever happens to you, full stop. It is literally putting a lid on your growth. So, I've heard it before, and it's something that I challenge, obviously. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You heard that before, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The person who is walking through a challenging time with a fixed mindset will always believe that it nearly took their life, full stop. But they will never be able to find any way that it made them better. Those persons are more likely to come out of every single experience not better, but bitter. They walk through all of those experiences feeling as though life has done something to them, because they don't see any way that they can grow through the experiences that they've walked through. Everybody still with me? They don't see any way. So they walk through it saying, life has treated me badly. I don't even want to set another goal, or I don't want to do anything. It's almost as though life comes to a screeching halt for them as they walk through their challenges. So they may have been probably in a relationship before, and that relationship comes to an end. And as a result, life basically comes to an end for them, and they will never want to see another relationship in their life. Everybody with me? Not me. I ain't want to see another man on a piece of paper. You understand? Not even on a piece of paper. So their life pretty much comes to an end because that's the decision that they've made. Now, if you think carefully about it, a lot of it is a well-organized, structured decision that has been made, you know. It is an argument, almost an argument against life. You get me? It's an argument against living. It's an argument against being better and enjoying life. They just have a way of being able to see they're negative in every single situation. Because, as I said to you, it isn't that life has done anything for them. It is that is almost as though life is working against them. So their mindsets become very fixed, as we say. This mindset will tell you, who do you think you are? You're not going anywhere because you don't have the skills or abilities or background to make this happen. That's an example of a good fixed mindset. A good fixed mindset will allow a vacancy to pass through the office. And you would look at it and say, nothing sense a plan. Even though you could look at it and see that you probably tick off 80-90% of the things, you will more than likely look at it and say, make no sense a plan, because I would never get that job. Everybody's with me? Fixed mindset. Oh, I ain't good enough for that. Oh, they only put that in there so that Roy could get that job. Fixed mindset. And you never ever see yourself applying. In fact, there are people who may have to come to you and say, well, you don't apply for the job? Well, you don't apply for the job? The fixed mindset says, I know my place, and I'm going to stay in my place, stay in my lane, and all kind of different fancy talk that they have. And they end up just settling for life. My little corner. Right? And they just end up settling for life. Everybody's with me? Any questions? Anything that you want to add there? So that's the fixed mindset. Now, the growth mindset, on the other hand, is a lot more optimistic. A whole lot more optimistic. This mindset believes that growth is possible. And once you go through training and development and every single thing that is available to you, all the upskilling opportunities, etc., that you can actually become the very best edition of yourself. That's a growth mindset. As I said to you, you'll be shocked to see that a large percentage of people have actually settled for what they have in life, full stop, you know. You know that? There's nothing else that they see themselves being able to gain, to glean, to grab hold of, nothing of the sort. They've just become stuck in life. Really seriously just become stuck in life. When you become stuck, you start to stick people. Yeah, because you start to make everybody around you miserable and everything when you become stuck. Sometimes we see people who are what we call miserable and fretful and all these kind of things. And we tend to just attribute it to that is just them. But we don't realize that that is who they have become. Because when you sit down and you think about it, years ago you remember that person being a bubbly person, somebody always laughing and enjoying themselves, and you say to yourself, well, something must have gone wrong. So this is what happens here, right? In our society, especially in a society, and we'll talk about this at some point in time, the whole concept of trauma is real. The whole concept of trauma is real. There are people who have gone through some traumatic experiences that have somewhat shifted and changed them and turned their minds in a different direction, and they're no longer interested or even want to participate in anything. There are several young men who are on the block, and you're saying to yourself, why these young men are stuck? But really and truly, it isn't necessarily that they chose to be stuck. It is what they probably went through, and they just did not know what it meant to be resilient enough to be able to come through it, walk through it, get up, dust off, and go again. So in the past, we have asked questions like, what is wrong with you? You've heard that question, right? What is wrong with you? If you think about it carefully, it isn't necessarily what is wrong with that person. The better question might be, what happened to you? You still with me? The better question may be, what happened to you? Because this is not the person that I knew. So imagine then, let's just kind of put our minds in this space. Imagine that you knew somebody when you were younger. You knew them probably as a teenager, young adult, and you remember them, and you saw the excitement in them and the trajectory that they were on, and they were going so well, and everything seemed as though, they were just about to take off, and you were excited about everything for them. And probably 20, 30 years later, you see the same person. And you recognize that all happened is that the person looked older. But you're saying to yourself, this body is a shadow of themselves. They don't seem to be the bubbly person that I knew. On the other hand, you might be able to find someone that you say, whoa, I always knew that this person would become this. I always knew this person would have gone this direction. But then there's some that you're saying, but I don't know. When she was younger, when he was younger, they had so much promise. I thought that they would have become all of this. If you were to do the what we would call the gap analysis, and you go back to where you knew them last, and you go to where you now met them again, you will probably find that there's something traumatic that took place somewhere along that line. Something that happened that caused that person to become who they are today. Many cases, they may want to do better, but because of the trauma that they've walked through, they're now stuck. And they don't feel as though they can do anything more, they can't go any further. It helps you to understand then that everybody that you come into contact with isn't necessarily the behavior that you see. The behavior you see is really and truly what we would call the symptom. But there's a greater something happening on the inside that you have to be able to identify, because then it makes it a lot easier to be able to relate to that person. Is everybody still with me? Yeah? I'm making sense to you? Any thoughts? Anybody want to share anything right here? I could tell that you wanted to talk.
Yeah, but also looking at it, it's difficult for the person. You know someone, as you said, about energetic, that used to do everything, and then all of a sudden they probably had an experience. They not know what type of experience they had or what traumatic experience they had, but they cut off themselves from everything. They just used to stop home, stop in the bed, afraid to go outside, afraid to go anywhere, afraid to take any chances, and to me that was so dangerous, because now you're speaking there. You could have approached her and say, what are you going through? What happened that you're going through this? So I met a person like that, and I know it's very, really dangerous.
Very, very true. It is a much more, what's the best word that I probably can use? It is a whole lot more prevalent than you might think. It is a whole lot more prevalent than you might think. There are several persons who are still stuck there. I want to suggest this to you, though, that all of us go through something. So it isn't a case where all of us, that isn't the part that we are concerned about. The real issue is when you go through something to the point where you just decide that you are not going to grow anymore. Everybody with me? Even a plant, if a plant loses all its leaves and it loses a major part of the stem or whatever the case is, even a plant starts to sprout again. So you know then that if a human being ever gets to that place where he or she stops growing, that there has to be something that is seriously gone wrong. Something has seriously gone wrong anytime you find somebody gets there. So the challenge then is we don't want to find ourselves in that uncomfortable position where we stop growing. So the growth mindset looks at setbacks and things that happen, and they're okay with those things because they don't see them as things to stop them, to hinder them from achieving. They just see them as, it's almost as though we're on an obstacle course, and there are things that we will come across that we will jump over, we will leap over, we will run through some, we will run around some, we will crawl underneath some if we have to, whatever we do, but it's not going to stop us from going forward. It's not going to stop. It's never ever going to stop us from being able to achieve what we believe God has in store for us. Everybody still with me? So you don't want to get to that uncomfortable place where you lose yourself in the entire experience. There's some persons, as I said, who become what they go through. So all of us here have failed before. But I'm sure that there's nobody here seated who wants to consider themselves a failure. Agree? After we were saved, all of us sinned. But there's nobody here who wants to consider themselves a sinner. Agree? So why is it then that we attach these things to ourselves? And what it is that we are actually labeling ourselves and not even giving the enemy the opportunity to do it for us. We are doing it for ourselves. So we are calling ourselves failures. We are calling ourselves less than because of what we walk through. And then we make ourselves that thing. And when you do that, it means then that you become a part of your hindrance. Because what came in your way to hinder you has now taken over you, and it has you stuck, and you have now become a part of that hindrance. It's almost as though you're caught in a web, caught in a thicket, and you've become a part of it. God never ever created us as believers for us to walk through it like that. We were always expected to be resilient beings as believers. So the growth mindset says, you know what? You've got this. You're capable, intelligent, and you will persevere. It has what I call the stick-to-itiveness. I'm going to stick to this thing. I'm going to go through this thing no matter what. I'm not giving up. If we were to now sit down and do an evaluation of our lives, we were supposed to bring things into alignment, do an evaluation of our lives. It would be interesting for you to be able to sit and to sift through things that you've walked through and put them probably on two different sides. You understand? Two different sides. Put them on the sides where you would say, I kept going, and the other side, I gave up. You will then know what type of mindset you are if you find that one side outweighs the other. You understand me? If one side outweighs the other. If, unfortunately for you, the majority of time you gave up, well, you know that you're in a fixed mindset. But if on the majority of times, even though it happened to you, you were still able to get up and keep moving, you are now of the growth mindset. Because you've not allowed anything to stop you from achieving or becoming who God wants you to become. And that is what makes the difference. I want to say this to you. If Jesus died, and this is the basis of our Christian faith, the very essence of our Christian faith is this. Not that Jesus died, you know. Because Jesus died, yes. But guess what? All the other gods out there that are worshipped today, human gods that were worshipped, they all died too. Everybody's with me? They all died too. But you know what is the essence of our faith? That he got back up again. He rose from the experience that he went through. He rose. So he didn't become deaf just to stay there doing and be deaf, full stop. But he also rose to be what? Life. And that is the essence of it for us as believers. That even though we might fail sometimes, we don't stay in our failure because we start to see failure now as a part of the process. Hello? With me? Failure is part of the process. So failure is the exercises that I do to reach success. But this is the thing. If I stop at the place of failure, I will never be able to taste success. Never. I will never be able to experience it. So the growth mindset says, I'm going to press past these setbacks. So this thing that we heard here today about the growth mindset was actually coined by a psychologist, a lady called Carol Dweck. She did several studies on it. As I said to you earlier, the fixed mindset believes that the abilities and intelligence that we have, all of them are static traits. While a growth mindset perceives that qualities are malleable, capable of improvement through effort, learning, and perseverance. It basically says to us that we as believers can grow. We as believers can grow, can develop. There's some of you who had what you would want to consider a traumatic experience as a young person, but you didn't get stuck there and decide that this is who I am, and you know what, I'm no better than this is who I am, and I'm going to stick right here. You got the resolve to keep going. So as a believer, that's the icing on the cake, really. That's really the icing on the cake. So when we start talking about cultivating this mindset, there are 4 key elements to it. And in your handout, it's on the 3rd page, 4 key elements. First, the ability to embrace challenges. Ability to embrace challenges. A growth mindset encourages individuals to step out of their comfort zone and tackle challenges head on. By doing so, they learn, adapt, and grow from the experience. There are too many cowardly people walking around who don't want to try anything different, who don't want another experience, who will never ever try to stretch themselves. They're afraid that if they stretch, they're going to pop. You with me? So what's the best thing to do? Don't stretch. You know there's some people who would never ever spend what they would consider a bad saint because they ain't taking no risk, but they will remain poor. You understand? They decide they're going to remain poor because not me, I ain't taking no risk. All the risk is go and put some money in some stock or put some money in some, well, these days, you know, you got to be careful with some of the government papers, but put some money in some government paper or something, and everybody's petrified because they don't want to do that. They don't challenge. Have you ever walked into the presence of somebody who is just always ready to throw water on your excited vision? There's something that is bubbling up on the inside that you hear, and you go and you say, listen, nah, boy, don't do that, boy. No, boy, listen, they always know 3 people. You know that? They always know 3 people that something happened to. So Leanne, you say, man, I was thinking, man, that I'm going to take a portion and I'm going to go to Central Bank, man, I'm going to do, and nah, boy, no, but listen, I know 3 people who went through. They always know somebody who it didn't work out for. So it's one of the reasons why in many cases you have to be careful, because there are more persons, remember, who are of the fixed mindset than are of the growth mindset. So you have to be careful with whom you share vision and ideas and those kind of things with. Everything isn't for everybody, you know. So remember earlier, Avril said, it depends on who is around you. Who are your friends? Are your friends the firemen? You know what I call the firemen? The fire is set within your bones and you excited and they just come with a hose out and like, shh, out it, man. Every time you leave them, you just smoke. And you get stuck. When you get stuck, there is absolutely nothing worse than feeling as though you've been going through the same thing over and over and over again and nothing seems to be changing. When sometimes you are the one who has the key to make it change. So you got to be careful with whom you hang. With whom you hang. I think I told you this before, the story of the guy, not the guy, the chicken. Here the chicken is amongst all of the other chickens and clucking every day and picking every day like all the other chickens. And one day he sees this grouping of birds flying over. And as the birds started to fly over Roy, he looked up, and it was kind of interesting because he actually felt as though he looked like one of those birds that was flying over. So he started to flap his wings, and before you know it, he was starting to fly. And he eventually joined the group of birds that were flying over. It's at that point in time that he realized that he really was not a chicken, he was an eagle. But because he was around chickens all the time, he acted like a chicken. Everybody with me? You could begin to act like the people that you're around all the time, which means then you have to choose your friends and persons that are close to you and in your business and things like that. Choose them wisely. Jesus had far more than 12 disciples. Far more than 12 disciples. But he called 12 for special project. And then of those 12, he only hung around 3 of them all the time. Y'all know that. There were 3 in a circle, people. You don't need the whole world around you, because if you have the whole world around you, you will have to pass your ideas and pass everything through the whole world. You just need the right people in your space, the right people in your life for you to be able to make a difference. So the key is embrace those challenges. Don't bemoan a challenge. Sorry, but I have to say, Zoe goes into a little whining syndrome sometimes. And just the day she was doing it in my office, she started to whine. That's all you hear. It's almost like a language that is learned. And what happens with that is that when she starts to whine like that, up to today, I said it to her, and I said it to her mom. I said, it's almost as though she saps all the oxygen out the room. So you start to feel miserable when you hear that. Over and over in your ear. Anybody had a child who used to do that? All you hear is, and all you see in yourself is, geez, already enough of this now. But it sucks the energy out of the room, and it causes you then to start to become miserable. You imagine if every single morning you get up, all your wife doing is quarreling, all your husband doing is quarreling. You understand what I mean? After a while, you start to feel like, let me open my eye and see if she up. Let me open my eye and see if he up. I can wait till they go along and then I can come out. Because it would sap every single thing out of the room, out of the relationship, everything. So you have to embrace those challenges and don't just sit down there bemoaning yourself all the time. You also, the second thing is that you learn from criticism. Some people fight criticism, some people learn from it. You with me? Some people fight it because we don't believe we should be criticized. That isn't true. Learn from criticism. Learn from the things that people have to say about you that you don't even know. You know, there are a lot of things that people say about you that you don't even know personally. Learn about it. But if you be real, it is good to have persons around you in your life who can tell you the truth, the whole truth, or nothing but the truth, so help you God. Who can let you know, because those persons help you grow. You with me? So persons who let you know usually help you grow. They tell you as it is, and because they have what you would call relationship currency, they know you well enough to be able to tell you you're doing foolishness. I'm talking about nobody that just come around and start telling you all kind of things. More than ever, when that happens, you kind of resist it. But I'm talking about people who have invested in your life. You know they care about you and they're interested in you. It is always good for you to have those people around you, being able to tell you as it is. Everybody still with me? Tell me as it is, man. Then let me know. Let me know. And constructive criticism, therefore, is valuable feedback. It's valuable feedback. It only becomes uncomfortable for you if you feel that you are God sent, you're everything that this world ever needed. But if you know your 2 feet are on the ground and you know that you're a human being and that you fail and you mess up, you walk through it and you have a different perspective on it. The other thing is that another element is that effort is the path to mastery. In other words, we have to train. We have to put effort into everything that we do. We are now in an age where people are telling you, don't work hard, work smart. And I'm going to tell you this. The persons who try to work smart usually come up short. I'm telling you, hard work is still a thing. If the word tells us by the sweat of your brow, you can eat bread. Don't you think that it's going to take some sort of effort? I find it interesting that we say, I ain't know who created work. God did. God created work. See all you teachers that know gone by know who created work after all them weeks? God created work. I understand God is who created work. So don't say I ain't know who created work. What was the instruction to man? After he created man, told him be what? Fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. And he made sure that he had a beautiful garden for him to do what? Work it, tend the garden, work. I didn't hear? The original plan wasn't for you to work so hard. It wasn't for you to work so hard, but you got to work hard. Any original plan, but it ain't what ended up happening. And I can tell you a whole set of other things that are original plan that has now become our lot in life. 6 days. And 6 days work, and then the 7th is what? Rest time. Today we get 2 days off. You understand? So we have to work. We have to put the effort in if we want to see things. And the 4th one is this, which is a very critical one. The ability to celebrate other people's successes. As I've always said, I've seen how well we can celebrate people's failures. You know that? It goes viral when somebody messes up. But very seldom will it go viral when it comes to celebrating people. So we will get it out there. We get the word out there. Everybody needs to know. Look at she thought she was better than anybody else. Look at she now. And we get it out there. So as we hone in a little bit more, I want to share something with you. So remember those 4 elements as we look into the scripture. As we go, yes, we're piggybacking on what Carol Dweck said and all the other people said. But as we go a little deeper, the whole concept then of spiritual growth mindset is a bit deeper than just even what she would have said. Because spiritual growth also assumes that you're fighting an enemy. You with me? It isn't just that you are operating on your own, trying to move forward and to get to certain places. It is oftentimes that there's an enemy also who is fighting you and fighting the destiny of God on your life. So could you imagine that you get up and you just decide there's certain things in life that I want to do, certain things that I want to achieve, and you make the effort to do, but every single time you try to do it, you feel as though you're bouncing off a wall. And that can easily happen to you. Very easily happen to you. So I want to look at Philippians chapter 3. I'm going to read it from the Message translation, which I find to be possibly the clearest translation that I read while I was putting this together. The Message translation says this. Reading from Philippians chapter 3, reading from verse 7. The very credentials these people are waving around as something special, I'm tearing up and throwing out with the trash, along with everything else I used to take credit for. And why? Because of Christ. Yes, all the things I once thought were so important are gone from my life, compared to the high privilege of knowing Christ Jesus as my master firsthand. Everything I once thought I had going for me is insignificant, dogged down. I've dumped it all in the trash so that I could embrace and be embraced by him. I didn't want some petty, inferior brand of righteousness that comes from keeping a list of rules when I could get the robust kind that comes from trusting Christ, God's righteousness. Verse 10, he says, I gave up all that inferior stuff so I could know Christ personally, experience his resurrection power, be a partner in his suffering, and go all the way with him to death itself. If there was any way to get in on the resurrection from the dead, I wanted to do it. Verse 12, I'm not saying that I have it all together, that I have made it, but I'm well on my way, reaching out for Christ, who has so wondrously reached out for me. Friends, don't get me wrong. By no means do I count myself an expert in all of this, but I've got my eye on the goal, where God is beckoning us onward to Jesus. I'm off and running, and I'm not turning back. So let's keep focus on that goal. Those of us who want everything God has for us, if any of you have something else in mind, something else than total commitment, God will clear your blurred vision. You'll see it yet. Now that we're on the right track, let's stay on it. So I want to show you something that is extremely important. The first thing that is extremely important in this whole equation is this. The Apostle Paul got to the place where he had achieved so many things in life and he had done so many things. If you read the first few verses there, he's talking about people waving around all the credentials and all the things they had achieved in life. Look at it and read it through. For him, however, growth was about his relationship with God and not about achieving certain things. So spiritual growth mindset is wanting to get deeper in God, wanting to achieve more in God, wanting to claim more in God. So when you see now in Corinthians where he's talking to the church at Corinth and he says to the church, I want to give you strong meat, but y'all are still carnal. The carnality was actually, they were fighting for positions and all kind of different things, jostling for prestige and all these things. That is what was drawing them. Their attention was on the achievements of life. Their attention was not on their relationship with God. The person who grows spiritually, who develops spiritually and becomes all that God would want them to be spiritually, is the person who is able to go a little beyond just, I have achieved all these things, God is good to me. You know that's how we measure that's how we measure success in God now, and that's how we measure God's hand on our lives, based on what we have achieved. Paul said, all that I achieve is dog dung. All those things that I got, I am ready to bring them to the party and tear them up and throw them away. Because at the end of his sojourn, this verse is the verse that we say so adequately. I read it from the Message, but this is the one where he says, I count all these things dung. And he says, that I may know him. That I may know him. For him, the ultimate doing of his relationship and success in every single thing in God was a deeper knowledge of God and a deeper experience with God. It wasn't about all the things he got. Because this is the thing about life, you know. We spend a whole set of time running after those things. You know that? The majority of your life is spent running after and chasing certain things. I want a house by this time. I want a house and a spouse. We run after those things the majority of the time. But Paul was saying, as much as those things may have mattered, he is now to the end of his sojourn. He is getting closer to death, and he is now realizing what really matters. Because I got all of that, but it didn't do anything for me. I got all of that. But you know what really mattered for me? My relationship my relationship with the Lord. That is what really mattered for me. The things that I gain as a result of all the suffering and all the things that I walked through, that is what really mattered to me. So he says a couple things that I want to draw your attention to, right? He says, first and foremost, I'm at the place of tearing them up and throwing them in the trash. You see that? Feel free to highlight it, underline it, whatever you do on your paper. These papers belong to you. Write them up, do whatever you want to do. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, he's making a comparison because he's lived long enough and he's gone through enough things to be able now to make a comparison. When I compare it to this, everybody with me? When I compare it to this, it ain't nothing to him. Ain't nothing. So what is the thing about driving a big BMW? What is the thing about driving a Mercedes? That's it. You walk around flashy, and every minute God look outside to see if anybody trying to rob you. You know, in the quest for several of these things, we lose peace of mind. And I always say this, you know, at the end of most people's sojourn here on earth, if there is one thing they will pay any amount of money for, is a peace of mind. I'm telling you. And you can't buy it. In fact, if you do have the amount of money that could probably buy it, you probably don't have any kind of peace of mind at all. Because you got to be sitting down thinking about that all the day long. So there are people who will go after those things, and those things matter to them. The other thing that he says that which is extremely important is this. He says, I didn't want some petty inferior brand of righteousness that comes from keeping a list of rules, but I could get the robust kind that comes from trusting Christ. In other words, the opportunity to trust Christ when I can't just get things Avril that just happen automatically. The opportunity to trust Christ is a lot more robust than if I were to be able to get every single thing that I wanted. By probably the snap of a finger, the click of a button. But because I've learned what it means to trust Christ, you know what? I have become better, stronger, so much more confident in him and his ability to come through on my behalf. That is what makes a massive difference in the life of the believer. You still with me? So, remember when Andre Crouch said, through it all? He said, through it all of what? I've learned to trust in Jesus. I've learned to trust in God. And he says an extremely important line. He said, because if I never had a problem, I'd never know that God could solve them. I'd never know what faith in God could do. It's the trial of your faith, Roy, that makes you into the robust, strong believer that you are expected to be. It is the trial of your faith. If you were to go through this life and have absolutely no trials, you would just be one living wuss. Just a wuss. Everything will probably scare you. But when you walk through it now, it makes a big difference. So I remember even as I talk about that, everything would scare you. I was watching a movie the other night with my wife. We were watching this movie. I don't know why every single time I'm watching a movie, it has to come from Lifetime. But it was a Lifetime movie. And I'm watching the movie there. And we were there. As we were watching the movie, something happened in the movie. And this image came forward to the screen. Bound forward to the screen. And when it bumped forward to the screen, I jumped. And my wife looked at me, you're jumping. I never expected it. And I went all the way back to when I was younger. You used to watch movies between your fingers. You remember that? You used to watch them because you could control what happens and what doesn't happen, what you see and what you don't see. But that's not life today. There's some things that you will have to walk through that might scare you, jump you, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, it didn't make me go in my bed and start watching a movie. So we started watching a little part with her. She said, no, man, this is too scary. She went in her bed. But we watched the movie and it didn't scare me away to the point where I ran away from life. Because it was still worth watching. And we still gained something from it. So it's the same thing that Paul is here talking about. I've walked through a robust faith. My faith is developed in a strong way because of the experiences that I've had. Paul is at the end of his walk, and Paul has gone through some of the most horrendous things that you could ever think about. But all he is saying is, these things are the things that have made me who I am today. That is why he is able to say, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. That I may know him. Because my experience has been so rich walking through with God. So rich walking through with God. So I'm going to leave there and I'm going to jump over now because I don't want to have you too long, probably about 10 more minutes and I'm finished. So if we look now, there's 7 simple things that we're gonna capture. 7 simple things. The first one is, in order to develop this spiritual mindset, this real spiritual growth mindset, the first one is embrace challenges. I think we mentioned a little bit about this. Rather than avoiding challenges, actively seek out opportunities to challenge yourself and learn new things. Approach challenges with a positive attitude and view them as opportunities to grow and improve. So they ask you to act at work in a position. Who, me? Not me. Think I foolish? Not me. I got my job when they think they're going to show me up. Why not use it as an opportunity to grow? You understand? After your acting period, you still get back your job. You still go straight back to your substantive role. But why not? You with me? A big job comes up at Elara Court. In fact, I heard now that they're going to soon be working on Sherborne, so a big job comes up at Sherborne, and they call Anderson as a contractor. The first thing he says is, not me, man. That work is too much for me. Seriously? Why? You can't spend millions? So instead of saying so, doing, what we do is we work towards positioning ourselves to be able to get it done. Everybody with me? Work towards positioning ourselves to get it done. It is amazing that we can say so easily, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It rolls off of our tongues from the time we're little children. And as we get older, sometimes that is where the challenge ends. It feels now as though I can't do anything through Christ who strengthens me. The devil is a liar. Let's still embrace that whole concept with fire in our bosom that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Number 2, emphasize effort and persistence. Recognize the value of hard work and persistence and celebrate your progress and achievements along the way. Sometimes you have to pause and to recognize that you are so much further than you were before. Stop thinking about the distance that still has to be traveled and focus on what you've already done. Because you started. You with me? That might be a good thing for somebody who needs to go back and finish the studies. Stop running from it. Oh, not me. I got this thing already. I don't want nothing else. And that you don't want it. You know, you would really like if somebody were to come and bring it packaged for you and say, here is your doctorate. Here is your master's. You would take it. I know you would take it. The problem is that you don't want to take the hard work. You understand? Some of you got the money put down there saying, sometimes I can do it, you know. I can do it. But you just ain't want, not me, boy, you know what, you ain't try to lose hair when they're doing this first degree. Nah, you have to embrace it and keep pressing ahead. Those persons who, at the end of the day, are able to say, I did it, are those persons who actually started it. If you never start, you can't say I did it. Agree? Agree? I did it only comes from the persons who actually put in the effort. Number 3, learn therefore from those failures. I I say to you, rather than viewing failures as evidence of your limitations, see them as opportunities to learn and grow. Reflect on what you can learn from the experience and use it to inform your future actions. You don't just fail, learn to fail forward. You with me? Learn to fail forward. As I fail, I'm going to use it to keep going. I'm going to use it to keep pressing. I'm going to use it to get better and better and better all the time. Number 4, adopt a not yet mindset. Instead of thinking, I can't do this, adopt a not yet mindset and believe that you can learn and improve over time with effort and practice. Now, when I am what you call an assessor with the TVET Council. Now, assessments are different from what we would want to call the regular studies, academic studies. The thing about assessments is that assessments kind of stretch you because it is focused on what you are capable of doing and the gaps that you still have. So as I go to do an assessment, at the end of the day, if I ask you to climb the wall, I must report that you were able to climb probably 2 feet up the wall, 5 feet up the wall, whatever the case is. I don't just give you a tick if you get right to the top. I must measure your progress, what you've been able to do within the period. And then there's a clause when I'm reporting now to the second assessor. That second person, I report to them that you are not yet competent. In mainstream academia, that would have been reported that you failed. Agree? In competency-based training, it will be reported that you are not yet competent. It doesn't mean that you are never going to get this done. But at this stage, what you were asked to do, you couldn't get it done in its totality. But it does not mean that you haven't made progress. You've made progress. You've gone in a certain way. And sometimes we have to pause and to look at ourselves and say, you know what? I have made substantial progress. I have done pretty well. I know sometimes that you have to be careful with certain things because some things might start to sound as though they're not necessarily scriptural. But I believe in self-talk. It is the same way that people can discourage you. Remember that person, the fireman that I talk about in your life, who could come around and out every single fire? I believe in self-talk because I have seen in places where sometimes you are your only cheerleader. You are the only person who's trying to encourage yourself to keep going. And that goes a long way in your growth. You have to know to speak the words. Sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, man, you could get this done. Sometimes you got to, as you're going through something, say, man, you only don't say this in the class. They got somebody don't say it than you. You know, sometimes you just got to be able to speak things positively over your life because oftentimes what will happen is the negativity starts to come out first. And that negativity drives us to that place where we don't even want to try. Now, don't go down that road. If you start to say, no, I ain't get here yet, it's so much different from, man, I know you. I thinking about done with this here. Everybody with me? Try something else. Do it a different way before you run away from it and you give up on it. The worst thing you could ever do is walk away from a dream and then realize that you were just a few steps from hitting the jackpot. Yeah? You with me? You're just a few steps from hitting the jackpot, but you walked away from it because in your mind, I know, this is a lot to do. Don't give up like that. Number 5, seek out feedback. Ask for feedback from others and use it as an opportunity to learn and improve. Very constructive feedback as a gift. Constructive feedback as a gift that can help you grow and develop. Remember we said you also got to be able to embrace the criticism that will come. Sometimes you're doing foolishness. One of the things that we learn, especially from young people, is young people don't like you to tell them that they're wrong. You know, when you tell them they're wrong, they start crying. You know that, right? A little child, if you tell a little child you're wrong, you shouldn't do something, they just start crying because they don't want to hear that. But you're an adult now. You're all grown. You have to be able to handle it when somebody says you're wrong. Amen. Handle it and keep moving on. And number 6, surround yourself with positive influences. I spoke to you about this already, right? Have the persons in your life that you know can make a difference in your life. They're positive. I want to say this to you, and it's something that I learned earlier, Clark. If you're the brightest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You with me? Always be in a room where you can learn something, where there's somebody that can teach you something. If you know everything and nobody else knows anything, I'm telling you, that's the wrong room to be in. Yeah? Wrong room to be in. You don't want to be the guru in every single situation. You want rooms that you can walk in and be able to get something from and walk off a better person, stronger person. Iron sharpens iron, not so? So when we say iron sharpens iron, is there big iron and small iron? Same metal, iron sharpens metal. So whenever I rub them together, they're having an equal impact on each other. You with me? And it has to be that. It has to be equal impact. You want to be in spaces where people can pour into your life also. And number 7, embrace lifelong learning. Cultivate a curiosity and a desire to learn new things throughout your life. View challenges and setbacks as opportunities to learn and grow, and approach new experiences with an open mind. Always see it as the possibility for you to grow. I want to grow. So I'm thinking about David, and David steps out on the battlefield. David has never ever fought anything except a lion and a bear. That's the only thing. But he steps out on the battlefield, and everybody there says, "Where this little boy going? Try and go back where you come from. Go and take care of the sheep." And they're trying to run him away because, as far as they're concerned, he's too inexperienced for him to be able to make an impact. But he says, "No, I come in. I step in here." And he steps right into the space, and he does the heroic. He does the heroic. I like to say he kills something big. The only way that you will kill something big is when you step out of your comfort zone and you determine that you are going to learn from this thing. So he stepped out there and he made the effort, whatever effort it was. He did it the way that he thought he could do it. Back then, I know that there are several persons who talk about the fact that he used what we would call a gutapert, but that was one of the tools of a shepherd. Shepherds use gutapurts because once they let go of that thing, it's just like if you see something come wrong, your animals, you throw a rock and you hope that the rock was scared away. That is how they would just use a gutapert. And at the end of the day, we all talk about David today. But David stepped out of the comfort zone to make a big impact, to do something different. He wasn't just content for the rest of his life staying where he was, but he decided that he wanted to go a little beyond it. Everybody still with me? My challenge to you is see those opportunities as opportunities to grow, to get better. I want to close with this. I'm going to give you a chance to ask any questions or make any comments. But I want to close with this. There's some of you who are in this room who might even say to yourself, "I'm too old for this now." What Pastor talk about today is for the young people. "I'm too old for this now. I've gone past that time now." What Pastor talk about for these young people? These young people, you know, they could learn from this and hope that they won't make the same mistakes that I've made. That might be in your mind. I want to suggest to you, as long as you are alive, you should still be learning. As long as you are alive, you should still be getting better all the time. So there are mistakes that you made, which means that you are now an expert. You know you become an expert based on the number of mistakes you make. That's how Einstein became an expert. He actually admitted that he made so many mistakes. One day somebody asked him, you know, how could you just keep going and making all these mistakes all the time? And he said, all those mistakes were extremely important because those mistakes are the reason why he was able to find so many solutions for things. If you don't make mistakes, you don't find solutions. So don't give up on life and say, oh, you know, that's the end of me. I old now. Listen, I hate to hear that talk, you know. Listen, that rubs me the wrong way when I hear people say, I old now. That's for the young people. The only time you stop learning is when you die. Because you will always have somebody to be able to tell something to encourage them on. So you don't give up on life like that. I pause. Any questions from me? Any statements, anything that anybody wants to add, anything that anybody is seeking greater clarity on, anything of the sort, just let me know. Anybody? You got to use the microphone.
Yeah. But rather than be saying that, oh, we too old, I think that we have to really join, actually, come out of our comfort zone and help the young people to grow. Because what we could do, we could, well, they don't listen anyway, but they don't listen anyway, but I think that we still got to try to help them not to make the mistakes that we made if they would listen. If they would listen. But I don't think that we could afford to sit back in these times and say that we're too old for anything. I think that we have to somehow teach or try to teach or help the generation that's coming behind us. I just did it. I just come my comfort zone and gone back into this whole set of thing now all over again just to help my son. Just in order to help my son reach his destiny. I just give up everything and going right back out in the thing that I left. Just to make sure that he get to where he want to go. So we still got a lot to offer, no matter where we are, how old we are. As seniors, we still have something to offer to younger people. So we always got to let them know, never ever make them feel, always make them feel that we are approachable.
Yeah, man. So I noticed that you changed your language. You say as seniors, not old people. As seniors.
I just want to say, right now we are in what we call it technological era. And every time you hear the people saying everything is going to be done online, and we as seniors don't want to at least get to learn the basics of how to do things online. We still want to do the things this analog way. Go and stand up in these long lines and then complain that they need chairs for you to sit down and all that thing. But I'm glad that I have my daughter with me. She said, all you got is gray hair. But you could do things with your hands and use wear glasses if you got any issues. So mostly all of my things though I have to do online. What she's going to do is she's going to sit me down and walk me through the process. Then she's going to let me do it myself to see if I do it correctly. And we can do that 2 or 3 times till I'm competent. She said, Daddy, this thing but gonna start me bank down working for she. You got a phone, at home now. You ain't gonna spend 8 hours on it. Every day go upon it a little hour. Touch these icons and see where to carry you. This button can bring you back here. So I get to learn the phone better. I know how to do things online. So yes, we may be advanced in age, but I ain't putting this old age thing on me. Because old age is where it start get, where it's 67 we get old age pension. That's when they consider to be old age. Gray hair doesn't mean that you got gray hair. It doesn't mean that you're old. So we got to embrace these things. And I concur with Roy. We say that they don't listen. They may appear not to be listening. But this is my thing. If I'm talking and you are not responding, you are listening. You are listening. So I know that something that I say can resonate with you. If I talk and you talk about I don't that we are listening, that's what we are studying. But if I'm talking and you are not saying anything, it means you are listening and that something that I say will stick with you.
I want to ask a question, a very interesting question. Do you give people advice so that they will do what you want them to do? Or do you give them advice so that they will make the best decision? It's a big difference, right? Because I could give you advice so you could do exactly what I want to do, and then I would say you ain't listening. Or I could give you advice because I want to tool you with the right information for you to be able to make the best decision for you. So when you make the best decision for you, I gotta sit down and say, well, that's the best decision for him or her, and that's the key. I never forget when I was younger, my mom had asked us to come and to help with the cooking, and we were supposed to do the salads. And I remember as we went into the kitchen to do the salads, it became a whole argument of you're doing the salad wrong. And I never ever forget, big argument, big fuss about if the cucumber was supposed to be wet or if the cucumber was supposed to be just normal and all kind of different things. And at that point in time, I sat down and I said, that was basically how some people taught people how to do things. There is only one way to do it. And if you don't do it this one way, it is wrong. You understand? Because my way is the right way. But we are now in a different situation where several persons can come up with all different ways to be able to do things. And if we are wise, we will learn some new ways and not just get stuck on our old way of doing it.
Thank you. Hear that, Chloe? What happened is that what came to me through this process though is celebrate others' success. I've learned how to celebrate others' success, and I have a neighbor that knows what I'm going through, they went through, and God has blessed them, and they celebrate with them, and it teaches me how to celebrate others, but also it taught me how to celebrate myself too. There's some small things in my life, some small instances that we might feel that it's too small. I celebrate because I remember even going to the bank and depositing in the ATM. I used to go through the bank and he was talking about long lines and things. And then I went to the bank and I deposited on the ATM, which was in a quick. And I celebrated that. I said, Lord, I thank you that I could go and do this and go through, don't go through the crowd, don't go through the bank, you're going to the ATM and everything go on. So I believe that the small things in life that we should also celebrate.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so I want to say thank you to all of you for coming out and for being a part of this session. And I also want to thank the online viewers. We had 13 persons who were at any point in time online this evening with us. We bless God for all of them. Thank God for them joining